Grace will always win. I don't know about you, there's sometimes I just feel beaten and defeated. I know nobody else ever feels that way. But, sometimes it just, Satan just wants to stomp on us. But we got to remember, we may lose a little battle here and there, but I read the end of the story, and he wins. And he is such a beautiful and wonderful power. The name of Jesus, here we go. What a beautiful name. You are the Word in the beginning, one with God the Lord Most High. You hid glory in creation, now revealed in you our Christ. What a beautiful name it is! What a beautiful name it is! The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is! Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is! The name of Jesus. You didn't want heaven without us, so Jesus, you brought heaven down. When sin was great, your love was greater. What can separate us now? What a wonderful name it is! What a wonderful name it is! The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is! Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is! The name of Jesus. What a wonderful name it is! The name of Jesus. Death could not hold you, the bell tolled before you. You silenced the voice of sin and praise. The heavens are roaring the praise of your glory, for you are raised to life again. You have no rival, you have no equal. Now You are my song. You are the well, the one I'm drawing from. You are my refuge, my whole life long. Where else would I go? Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me. Your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me. Your love defends me. Day after day, night after night, I will remember you're with me in this fight. Although the battle, it rages on, the war is already won. I know the war is already won. Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me. Your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me. Your love defends me. We sing hallelujah. You're my portion, my salvation. Hallelujah. Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me. Your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me. Your love defends me. Surely my God is the strength of my soul. Your love defends me. Your love defends me. And when I feel like I'm all alone, your love defends me. Your love defends me. We sing hallelujah. You're my portion, my salvation. Hallelujah. You're my portion, my salvation. You're my portion, my salvation. Father, sometimes the Lord says, hallelujah. Father, you are all in all. You're everything we need today and everything we will need tomorrow. And you're ours for all eternity. Father, thank you so much for your love, for your grace. Father, as we open your word this morning, and as Nick proclaims your truth, I pray that you would speak to us as, Father, only you can. I pray that there's someone that doesn't have that knowledge of you in their heart. They might know a lot about who you are. But Father, I pray that our hearts would be changed when we left you this morning. Father, we ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Grab your Bibles and turn to Romans chapter 8. Romans chapter 8. A couple weeks ago, David preached through probably I would call the back half of chapter 7, the front half of chapter 8, and So as I was trying to, spend some time in prayer and study, trying to figure out where God would kind of lead me, one of the most stressful things is when you get like what I call the call, and you're like, hey, we need you to preach on these days. You're trying to figure out like, okay, what direction is the pastor going? What direction, you're trying to kind of piggyback off of something. And so, I've just been, praying and racking my brain, trying to figure out where God would have us go over the next couple weeks. And so just a couple weeks ago, in my quiet time, I was reading through this devotion, and it was the passage was in Romans chapter 8, the last chunk of verses there in chapter 8. And so God was just kind of stirring some things in my heart. And so I thought, hey, what a great idea to just finish out chapter 8. And so over the next 2 weeks, we're going to finish out Romans chapter 8 during our time while David is resting and working on his garden and all that fun stuff. I don't know how much rest really happens when you're working on your garden, but keep you that much, right? So Romans chapter 8 is where we're going to be. As you're turning there, hopefully you're there at this point. But while you're kind of getting settled in, I want to tell you a story about a salesman. He was traveling, doing his thing, going from place to place. And one night in the middle of the night, it was storming really, really bad. And he's out in kind of the middle of nowhere going to a bigger town. And he had gotten off the interstate. Anybody ever done that before? You get off the interstate and you're like, oh no, where am I at now? Kind of situation. And so he's traveling the back roads trying to figure out how to get back onto the interstate. Well, of course, maybe he was in Louisiana and he hit a pothole and had a big, huge blowout. And so he pulls over onto the side of the road and he opens the trunk of his car, and he's fixing to get everything out, and he gets his jack and he gets it jacked up, and he goes back to his trunk, and he goes and he looks, and he comes to the scary, sad, frightening realization, oh no, I don't have a lug wrench. I don't know if any of you have ever had to change a flat before, but if you don't have a lug wrench, it's kind of hard. Just, like unless you've been working out a lot, you can, no, nobody done that before. So he has a hard time. He can't change his tire. And so off in the distance, again, middle of the night, it's pouring rain, can't hardly see anything, but off in the distance, he sees this house, and he sees maybe some lights on. Maybe there's a front porch light. And so he says, I'm going to walk to this house in the pouring rain. He's got his, looking all nice. He's got his slacks on. He's got his dress shirt. He's got his nice dress shoes on. And he's going to walk miles and miles and miles so that he can get a lug wrench. And the whole time on the way there, he's thinking, okay, this guy that lives here, he's got to have a lug wrench. He's going to let me borrow the lug wrench. I mean, why wouldn't he? So now granted, as he keeps walking, just taking step after step after step, he's stepping over mud holes, stepping in mud holes. His clothes are ruined. And all of a sudden, his thoughts begin to shift, and they begin to change a little bit. And he starts to think, well, I'm going to have to wake this guy up. He's in his warm bed. It's dry. There's nothing, he's just like unconscious. Anybody been there before, asleep, just completely unconscious? Kelly got up the other night to, I think, check on Jack or something. She was like, did you hear that? And I said, I didn't know that the world was even moving. That's how hard asleep I was. And so he's like, now I've got to wake this guy up, and he's going to be upset. He's going to want to know, why in the world am I beating on his door in the middle of the night? And he says, I still got to go. I still got to ask for this lug wrench. And he keeps walking, and he keeps walking, and his clothes are more and more ruined. He's soaking wet. Looks like a wet dog, right? Probably even smells like one. And so he finally gets closer and closer and closer, and he realizes, you know what? This guy that lives in this house, he's not going to let me borrow that lug wrench. He's just an old, gripey man that doesn't like me. He doesn't even know me. But I bet he doesn't like me, right? And so he keeps going, and he keeps going. He finally gets to the porch. He bangs on the door real loud, wants in, and all of a sudden the light on the second story comes on, and the window opens, and a guy comes to the window, and he says, who is it? And the salesman down there on the porch goes, you know who it is. And you know that I need to borrow your lug wrench, and you're not going to let me. You know what? I don't even want to borrow your lug wrench. Even if it was the last one on earth, I don't want to borrow your lug wrench. And he storms off back to his car without a lug wrench. So he sits there for the rest of the night. Anybody ever been there before? You kind of get in your head a little bit, you get a little crazy, you think this scenario. Maybe you have to confront an issue. Maybe you have to have a conversation with somebody, and you play the scenario out in your head, and all of a sudden it goes from, this is going to be nice, calm conversation. This is going to be easy. This is going to be the easiest thing ever. And then you start kind of like, the wheels start turning in your head, and things just go from like 0 to 60. They get crazy, and you're like, they're going to murder me, right? Anybody go in there word? No, just me. Okay. I guess I have, maybe I have too much free time. I didn't realize that. And I think too much about certain things. But we've all been there. Maybe at some point, at least maybe when we were teenagers, right? There's this girl that you guys that you have the hots for, and you think she's